I made more money trading in one night than most people will make in their whole lifetime. The truth is, the best trade of my career, the trade when I made over $10 million, was the culmination of a skill set I had been honing for over a decade. In the next few minutes, you'll learn how I made over 8 figures in one night and the priceless lesson you can take away from it. If you're new here, I'm Lance Breitstein, ex-Trillium top trader and mentor to 7 and 8 figure P&L per year traders. This heroic story takes place on a Sunday night, August 4th, 2024. I had just come off a brutal weekend. I ran an endurance race that day, so I was already dead tired. I almost didn't log on, but the market closed really weak after an aggressive sell-off on the Friday prior. Japan's currency, the yen, had been steadily weakening over time when that prior week, the Bank of Japan finally changed their stance and raised interest rates. This sparked a flurry of short covering in the yen by traders caught offsides. The spike in the yen had a carryover effect that led to a massive panic in the Japanese Nikkei, which is their equivalent to our S&P 500. In 2 days, the Nikkei dropped over 10% heading into the weekend. That panic continued and even accelerated when trading resumed upon Sunday night's opening of futures, down 3%, down 5%, down 10%. Within hours, heading into Monday morning, the index was down 12%, a total free fall. This wasn't just a sell-off. This was pure capitulation, a climatic price decline on huge volume. The biggest one-day collapse in Japan's index since Black Monday, October 19th, 1987, when the Nikkei fell 15% in a single day. The moment I saw that, my mindset shifted. The fact the price was falling faster and greater now than during the COVID panic, faster now than it had in decades. While most were stricken with fear over how far the move might go, I was seized by the feeling of excitement and opportunity. This was the trade I had trained my whole career for. I made my career specializing in catching the proverbial falling knife. Tens of thousands of hours spent learning how and when to time the market and capture the bounce after periods of extreme fear. Another key aspect telling me we were at peak panic: thin liquidity, wide spreads, circuit breakers being tested. There were dislocations across everything. Nikkei futures, the yen, crypto, and even US markets were falling, with Apple down as much as 10%. This was a full-blown multi-asset panic. When most worry these moments might never end, I get to work knowing that when it's darkest and markets are pricing in peak pessimism, it's often right before the turn. I started building a watch list: the Nikkei, the Nasdaq, Nvidia, Apple, even Bank of America. I wanted the most exposure to the Nikkei because it was a basket of stocks making an unfathomably large single-day move. But I also wanted to buy large, stable American companies that were selling off huge despite being insulated from the causes of this panic. That is why I was also so interested in the Nasdaq and a basket of megacaps. It's one thing though to pick the right stocks, but then timing is everything in this game. This opportunity checked all the boxes. 3-day collapse, major volume, historic volatility spike. I was just waiting for that moment to dive in. The panic accelerated and we flirted with an index-wide volatility halt. It looked like we might turn and I piled into the Nikkei just a touch too early. We rolled over to lows, I took my loss, but then the index did not go down further. Wow. That itself was the tell. We could have totally melted, but we didn't, and we reclaimed the lows. I knew this was the moment. I've traded hundreds of panics, and this was it. I got massively long the Nikkei, one of the largest positions I've ever had. And sure enough, we start to bounce. Hesitantly, then more aggressively at first. With a sharp spike higher, we then finally break the downtrend after what had been a series of lower highs and lower lows. We roll over a bit, and it was the moment of truth. Now I wanted to see us make a higher low. We were holding higher, but not so far off of lows. 30 minutes felt like days. Then sure enough, we turned higher. As the higher low confirmed, we curl up and other buyers start to stick their neck out. Now is not the time to start taking profits, not in a move this big. I started adding more and more, while simultaneously blasting into a large position in the Nasdaq. Before long, I see an error message I almost never see. Order rejected, insufficient buying power. Wow. Based on the leverage in my account and the margin on futures, I had now deployed hundreds of millions of dollars in buying power, but was all tapped out. Well, time to strap on my seatbelt and hope I'm right. They say hope isn't a strategy, and that's true. But when you're fully positioned and you've checked all your assumptions, I had nothing left to do but hope. With my risk exposure set and my fate in the hands of the market gods, I take to Twitter to share my bold prediction. Despite still being in the middle of the storm, I post that this was peak panic and that I suspected we pair losses by market open. We start to bounce further and my P&L is on a rocket. Within an hour, I'm up already millions of dollars. Many would close their position and run, but I know to trust the expected value and my system. The market gods then tempted my resolve as we rolled over. Just as quick as the profits came, they evaporated as the position tested lows again. I've now been awake over 24 hours, covered in sweat, with my heart pounding in my chest. My only choice is still to trust my system. If we go to lows, I'll be out and we'll lose a few $1,000,000. We come perilously close. As traders in the US start to wake up, we again start to catch a bid and stabilize higher. Value seekers that were asleep in peaceful bliss wake up to see the carnage overnight and start buying. Finally, the US market opens and we climb further. I can breathe again. The jump in P&L and corresponding account value has given me even more buying power to deploy. While the NASDAQ held above lows and rips off the open, my dream watch list hadn't followed suit. I used that to buy as much Nvidia, Apple, and Bank of America that I could. The gains keep coming and the green number keeps getting bigger. $4 million, $6 million. Many traders would have let that number affect them. Even for me, this was personal record territory. As a general rule, when positions go in your favor, the expected value tends to decrease. As you go higher, your reward decreases and the distance to your stop is increasing. The true stop of my system is to initially give it to the lows of the day, then use a prior daily bar low trailing stop. However, just a mere 24 hours later, we had retraced the whole of that extreme overnight panic. I started to scale out of my position in huge chunks while keeping a core. The easy money had been made. Probably 80% of my P&L was locked in and I cemented the greatest day of my trading career. The other 20% I ended up trailing as a multi-day swing position to the true stop of my system, the prior daily bar lows. And my God, did that work well. When the dust settled, the Nikkei, NASDAQ, Apple, Nvidia, and Bank of America had all fully retraced their multi-day losses before I ended up getting stopped out of that swing position. But here's the crazy part. When all was said and done, I wasn't happy. I wasn't celebrating. I was exhausted. My brain was cooked and I felt like garbage. It was well over 24 hours of cortisol, adrenaline, and stress. I had been up for almost 2 days straight. As incredible as the P&L was, the real win was knowing that I executed to the best of my ability. I had spent over a decade preparing and refining my skills for that moment. And when that moment called me, I like to say I answered the call. And I hyperbolically like to say August 5th was the day I saved the Japanese stock market. That is the essence of trading and the real lesson here. You have slow years, you have drawdowns, you have struggles. I had over a decade full of them. During these hard times, you need to push through and work your hardest, taking the time to sharpen your playbook, which I talk all about in this video. Then, when the moment you've spent your career preparing for comes, and trust me, it always does, be ready to swing the bat. As I'm sure you know, when it comes to trading, there's winning and losing. So make sure to subscribe for my next video about the story of my biggest loss. That one still hurts a little bit, so liking this video would help me ease the pain. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story of my biggest win, and I'll see you next time.